So this webinar is about the roles, responsibilities, what we do as Chief Judge. So with this brief introduction, let's move on with our presentation. Also, let me repeat this if I have already told you that I'll be recording this, and this recording will be sent out for your, if you want to revisit, or anyone who have not been able to join us in this webinar. So, well, are you ready to be a chief judge? Are you ready to judge? Because as we all know here, contest seasons are coming. And as chief judge, we have a big responsibility how we manage the contest, because we want to make sure that the contest that we are holding in our district, or any contest that we hold, is fair and it gives a platform to our contestants that they deserved, because we know the kind of effort they put in as they have come prepared for the contest. So a brief agenda. We'll go through a brief introduction on this webinar and what we'll be covering and so on and so forth. And then we'll talk about eligibility. We'll talk about eligibility from the perspective of contestants, and then we'll also look at eligibility of contest officials, because as we have said, as chief judge, we want to make sure that all the players in the contest are eligible as laid down by rules and procedures or policies of Toastmasters International. Then we'll look at being a chief judge. What are the specific activities that we do or we need to do as a chief judge? And we'll go step by step. We'll look at what we have to do to prepare even before the contest day. And then when we go into the contest, as chief judge, what really we need to do. After that, we'll pick up some common questions that come up, or a lot of times some doubts that is there in our mind. And I have picked up some 4 questions that I've seen people have in mind when they go into a contest. And of course, we'll do a recap after that. And finally, we'll have a Q&A session where we'll discuss. It's more like a discussion forum, and you can come up with question. I'll try to answer, and maybe someone else will pitch in, and so on. So this is how we go about the Q&A. So with this, let's move to our first topic, which is really a brief introduction. Now, we have been talking about contest. It is worth refreshing our mind, and I'm sure most of us here know, but it is worth refreshing our mind. The schedule that we have. February is the month for club contest. We expect all the clubs in the district will be finishing their contest by the end of February. Then March, the month of March, we have kept for area contest. From 1st March to 31st March, we'll be scheduling area contest. Division contest will be held in the month of April. So all those who come up from the area contest will compete in the division contest, and that is slated to be held from 1st April to 30th April. And our grand finale of the district will be held on May 18, 2019, which will be our conference as well. So I'm sure everyone is looking forward to this day, and we are going to see some excellent speeches over there on this particular district contest. So let's talk about some types of contests that we come across in District 46. We know that we have been having humorous speech contest, table topics contest, international speech contest, and evaluation contest. These are the 4 categories of contests that we have been having in District 46. The first 2, humorous speech and international speech, are really prepared speeches from 5 to 7 minutes. And table topics, we know it is 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluation has its own format, 2 to 3 minutes. Having said that, as a chief judge, from the perspective of chief judge, really doesn't change a lot in terms of when we play the role of chief judge between one contest to another. The way each of these is done, there are a lot of differences, the way it is conducted, what it is about. But from the perspective of chief judge, there's not a lot of difference. Having said that, we will be focusing today on international speech contest and evaluation contest, because this is what we'll be going through in this season in our district. Club contest, area contest, division contest, and district contest, we'll be having this international speech and evaluation contest. So who is the chief judge? Who is the chief judge? As a chief judge, we are responsible for ensuring that the contest is run in a way that it is fair to all contestants. Because this is our responsibility. We want to give a very fair platform to all the contestants. And in accordance to rules and policies laid down by Toastmasters International. So it is, and we'll go through and see, sometimes it is not obvious why we have this particular rule, but over the years, Toastmasters International has fine-tuned some rules to ensure that it provides a very fair platform to all the contestants, provided we follow that. In the process, as a chief judge, we will appoint, counsel, and brief voting judges, counters, timers. That will be our team. We, as a chief judge, I'll have a team. It is not that me all alone will do that, and we'll have a team of voting judges. In fact, there'll be tie-breaking judge, counters, timers. As a chief judge again, and we'll go through this in more details, as a chief judge again, we'll be overseeing the voting process, because we'll see all that goes into the voting. We'll oversee the voting process, and then if there are any protests, then it is on us as chief judge to resolve this in the right way. And of course, there are 2 types of protests that we will come across: eligibility and originality. And we'll talk about how we resolve each of them. And then when we are chief judge, it is important to understand that we have another very important role, which is the role of chief counter. In other words, we'll have a team of a counter. We'll have assistant counters who will be in our team and who will help us count the ballots. So and we will be overseeing that, what you call, we'll be overseeing the counting process. So let's look at some important eligibility criteria. First and foremost, let's look at as a contestant. To compete, a contestant must be a paid member of the club, area, or division, whichever contest. Now, what we are really saying is, if I am representing a club, then I should be a paid member of that club. For example, if I have dual membership and I'm a member of another club and my membership has lapsed in this, I'm not eligible to be contesting from this club. So basically, if I'm contesting, I have to be a paid member of that particular club, that area, that division, as well as the club for which I'm a paid member, for which I'm representing in this contest. That club must be in good standing. What it really means? That means that that particular club must have at least 8 members, 8 paid members. And that is when a club will be in good standing. For international speech contest, we said, for example, when we started here, this season is for international speech contest and evaluation contest. Now, for international speech contest specifically, there is a requirement that a contestant must have completed 6 speeches in the CC manual, or completed 2 paths in any of the 2 levels in any of the 2 paths of in the pathways format. Having said that, there is an exception. The exception is if one is a charter member of a charter club, and as of the day of the contest, this club has been chartered less than 1 year, then this particular clause for international speech contest, this particular requirement for this speech contest, international speech contest, is not applicable. Another important, we don't kind of use this often, but still it is important to know as chief judge, that a contestant must be physically present beyond club level. What does this mean? It means that for the club, at the club level contest, a contestant can even participate over video. But that is not applicable when you move to area, division, and beyond. So only at the club level, a contestant can participate over video. It is important to understand. Now, I'll make it more clear that what we're saying is a contestant must not compete in more than 1 area contest. Let me explain this. Let's say I am a member of 2 clubs. Let's say club number 100 and club number 200. And club number 100 is in area 10, club number 200 is in area 20. and I go and I want to contest, and I select contest in club number 100 and club number 200. Am I allowed to contest in both the clubs? Yes, absolutely. I can. But if, let's say I win this club number 100 and club number 200, and then I would be eligible for area contest in area 10 and area contest in area 20. Now I cannot go and contest in area 10 and area 20 because beyond club level, only one you can contest. So I'll be able to take only 10 or 20. So at club level, you can contest in multiple clubs, from multiple clubs, or in multiple clubs. But beyond the club, when you move to area level, a contestant can compete in only one area. Another thing to understand about contestant, as a chief judge, we need to remember that there are some profiles that are not eligible to compete. Who are they? You cannot compete if you are serving as a judge, voting judge, or tie-breaking judge beyond the club level. Now, let me explain. Now, again, let's say I am a member of club number 100, and if I intend and the area for the club number 100 is area 10, we said, right? Now, let's say I might be a judge in area 10, that I should not be competing in club level in the club 100 because I am planning to be one of the judge at area or division where this particular club falls. Having said that, if I compete in area, I want to compete in club 100, whereas I'll be probably I'll be a judge in some other completely different area or division, then that is fine. As long as this particular club, this particular area doesn't fall within that umbrella where I am planning to go and be a judge, any kind of judge. Any incumbent international officers and directors, they are not allowed to compete. Neither do regional advisors and applicants. District officers expiring on June 30th, they are not. Who are the district officers? Trio, then we have public relationship manager, then we have admin manager, and all the different officers that is there, district officers, they are not eligible to compete in any contest. Immediate past district directors, they are not allowed to compete. Campaigning district officers, let's say they are going in for the next election and they are campaigning, they are not allowed. If we will have a session presenter in an education session, for example, we'll have a conference and a presenter, there will be presenters of education sessions in that conference, they are not allowed to compete in the contest. Or any functionaries serving at the contest. For example, if I'm a timer, I cannot go and compete, be a timer as well as compete in the same contest. Now, one thing I want to highlight here, it might, or maybe some of us might be thinking, so what's really the harm if the presenter of an education session at the event become a contestant? Why are we stopping that? Now, this brings us back to the point that the whole idea behind this is to make the competition, the contest, free and fair, very fair. Now, how does it stop being fair if we allow the presenter of education sessions? Because what will happen is the presenter, because of an education session, everyone will know that presenter. And that might influence judges. Maybe they'll be prejudiced in thinking that presenter is a good speaker and the ballot may get biased. So we don't want that, any kind of bias. We are avoiding any kind of bias, and that is really the reason being many of the profiles that we see here who are not allowed to compete. Now, what about contest officials? Again, there are eligibility requirements of contest officials. And as a chief judge, I need to understand that. First, let's look at the three main roles: chief judge, voting judge, and tie-breaking judge. Their eligibility at a club contest, the only eligibility is that they should be a paid member. That's it. But when we move to higher level contest, for example, in area, division, and district contest, not only that they have to be a paid member, but they have to be a paid member for a minimum of 6 months. For international speech contest, they should meet the requirement that is laid down for the contestant, like 6 CC speeches, 2 pathways level. And finally, of course, they have to be physically present. So for this court judge, this is the eligibility requirement. But as we've seen, in our team, there will be others as well. For other contest officials, for example, ballot counter, timer, as well as test speakers for evaluation contest. For a test speaker, the only requirement is that they must be a paid member. So how many? This is one question that comes up. How many judges we need? How many counters we need? So let's look at that. We'll talk about voting judges, tie-breaking judges, counters, and timers. Now, before we move forward, let me explain the difference between the voting judges and tie-breaking judges. Now, voting judges, as you might have seen, there will be many voting judges. They'll put the ballot and we put them together in the counting process to find out. But for tie-breaking, there'll be only one tie-breaking judge. So what happens is, the voting judges, once they've tallied, for example, if it comes out that 2 persons got the same rank, we need to break the tie. And the way we do it is from the ballot of the tie-breaking judge. That tie-breaking judge will be known only to the chief judge, and that ballot will be used only if there is a tie. So having said that, let's see how many we need each of these roles for at different level. Now for club level, it's required or it's recommended that we have 5 voting judges. As we have said, 1 tie-breaking judge, 3 counters, and 2 timers. Having said that, we have to be practical, and we should try to meet this as far as possible. For example, if it is not practical to have 3 counters, well, probably we'll do 2 or even 1. But this is the recommended, and we should try to meet this level. For area level, again, you see it is the same. But again, for the voting judges, if you see, what is said is you need to have 5 judges. And if we don't, then we have to ensure that there are equal number of judges from clubs being represented. For division level, again, the number is 7. We need to have 7 voting judges. And again, if you have not, then we have to ensure that we have at least equal number from areas being represented. Similarly, at district level, it is 7 voting judges that we need. And again, if it is not, then we have to ensure that the equal number of voting judges from each division being represented. So this grid kind of tells us how many voting judges, how many tie-breaking judges, of course, tie-breaking judge is always 1, and counters and timers that we need when we are having a contest. So being a chief judge, we have all this under our belt, right? We know the eligibility. We know how many judges we need, how many tie-breaking judges. And so let's move on and see what is it that we really need to do for the contest. We are the chief judge. And as you have said, it is our responsibility that everything goes smoothly. The contestants are provided a very fair platform. Now, this preparation for the contest doesn't start on the day of the contest. It starts much, much before. We have to prepare even before the contest. Many days before the contest, we have to start preparing. And there are some things that we need to do. First and foremost, as we have said, is the fact that, again, we are not one-person team. We will have a team of players who will be working with us to make the contest a success. Because of that, one of the first job or first task that we'll do is we'll appoint. We'll have to appoint voting judges, counters, timers, tie-breaking judges. So we'll have to appoint and counsel them, and that we have to do much in advance. And we can take help from the contest chair or others as well. But this is what we need to ensure that we have it ready. And as well as we said, assistant counters. And then we should also encourage them to view online speech contest training, because there are training videos in our Toastmasters International. So even before the day, much before the contest day, we should have this. We should think of who will be appropriate judges, who is eligible, who will be available, and make sure that we build a team. Once we do that, and we have reached that day, we have come on that day. And one of the most important thing before even the contest begins on the contest day is the briefing. Now, as you see, the briefing that we do will be for voting judges counters and timers. Now, do you see that we don't do the briefing for tie-breaking judge? That's because tie-breaking judge is secret. No one knows. I am the chief judge, only I'll know. And in the briefing session, tie-breaking judge will not participate because we don't want anyone to know who is the tie-breaking judge. Things that we do in the briefing is, first and foremost, we distribute to each voting judge. For example, what is the contestant speaking order? We should get it from the contest chair. What is the speaking order? And give it to the voting judge so that they know and understand what it is. Then judges, guide, and ballot, because we'll have this form, the ballots, the guide. So and we're talking about the voting judge, speech contest rule book, in case they want to refer to something. And there'll be certification of eligibility. There's a form and code of ethics. There is one form that we need to get signed by each of the voting judges. Having given that, when we are briefing the voting judge, we need to instruct our voting judges to try to sit close to the contestant, because sometimes if they are sitting very far away, they might not be able to hear properly because of some other noise and so on and so forth. Because they need to focus very closely with what the contestant is saying and doing to be able to give a proper ballot. Then we'll be briefing ballot counters. Counters who will be helping us to tally the ballot. And what we'll be doing is, and we really need to ensure that the ballot counters understand the tallying sheet and how this tallying sheet is used to actually do the counting. And believe me, it's not all that intuitive, the tallying sheet. I have seen people getting confused. So as chief judge, we want to make sure that our counters understand that tallying sheet. Then timers. Again, we will brief our timers on how to record the timing. And we have to ensure that our timers have the timing device. It should not be as an afterthought. So during the briefing session, we need to ensure, and if they have not, then we have to provide. The best thing for chief judges, even before coming to the contest, we have to have a timing device or maybe bring stopwatch to be provided to our timer. So we have done the briefing, we have our team, and the contest begins. Now when the contest takes place, you will find that when the contest chair actually initially introduces everyone and warms up the platform in terms of introducing, giving a brief of what is going to happen, at a certain point, the contest chair will ask the chief judge to explain the eligibility, the rules to the audience before starting of the contest. And that is something that as chief judge you will do first when this thing starts. And then when the contest happens and the speakers have contested, they give the speeches, timers have noted the time, and voting judges have put down the ballot and so on. After the speech is done, the contest is done, you will collect the timing record sheet from the timer and the tie-breaking ballot from tie-breaking judge. Because again, we said tie-breaking ballot from tie-breaking and judge, and only as a chief judge I'll know who is the tie-breaking judge. And again, timing record will be with me because I'll see if anyone is disqualified based on timing or not. Now, if there are any protests, as a chief judge, I have to ensure that this protest gets resolved. Now, coming to this protest, there are two types of protests. One is eligibility. Now, for eligibility, the protest based on eligibility, it is much more straightforward to resolve, and many times even contest chair can resolve it. For example, if someone is a paid member or not, or if someone is doing some role that conflicts with being a contestant, that thing is much straightforward to resolve. What can become tricky is when we are talking about originality, because originality has what you call some very specific requirement in terms of not more than 25% should be from some other source, and that also should be referenced, and so on and so forth. And we will be taking help from voting judges to come to a decision. Having said that, it is also important, if there is a protest, we should give a chance, or we should take input from the contestants against whom the protest is being made. We should take input from that contestant before coming to a decision. Overseeing the counting process, as we have talked about, because as a chief judge, I am the chief counter. So what happens here is, typically you'll find in the contest, when the contest interview takes place, chief judge will take the ballot counters and the ballots to a separate room as a chief judge. And there, the ballots will be counted. And it is recommended that it is counted twice to ensure accuracy, that there is no error. The last thing that we want is there has been a counting error because of which the wrong person was awarded the winner. We don't want that, and we want to make sure that the counting process is 100% accurate. Once we have that, we find out, we will provide this placement list, basically who is first, who is second, and who is third, to the contest chair. And when we do that, we have to ensure, as a chief judge, I'll also have to ensure that the timing is what you call met, because we have the timing sheet. And at the end of the contest, as a chief judge, I'll fill a form which is called notification of contest winner. There is a form that I'll fill up in terms of who is the first, who is second, who is third, and give it to the next level contest chair. For example, if it is at the club level contest I would probably give it to the area director. If it is the area level chief judge, I'm being a chief judge for the area level contest, I will give that form to the next level, who is the division director. So that they know who will be the participant at that level. So now we have come through the main aspects of being a chief judge. So let's look at a few common questions. Some of them, of course, we have covered as we were going through the presentation, but let's see these questions. First of all, what happens if the winner of a contest cannot participate in the next level? And I'm sure most of you would know the answer to this. If the, for example, the first winner is not able to make it, the runner-up or the second winner will participate at the next level. If both first and second cannot, then third. So it is important when we send the form, we send all the 3 names up to the next level contest chair. Can a dual member compete from more than one club? Like we talked about, yes, definitely. They can compete from more than one club, but it has to be remembered that when they reach the area level, a member can compete in only one area contest. So what is the role of tie-breaking judge? Again, we touched upon that. Tie-breaking judge ballot will come in play only if there is a tie. And chief judge will pull out that tie-breaking ballot only if there is a tie. And it has to be ensured with the tie-breaking judge that the ballot they provide has a very clear 1, 2, 3. There is no ambiguity over there, because then we will not be able to break the tie. And then finally we talked about the protest. Or there are 2 types, originality and eligibility. Eligibility is much straightforward. Contest chair will be able to resolve it. But in the case of originality, the 2 important things, one is the contestant against whom the protest is made, they should be given a chance to give their input. And secondly, it has to be agreed with the voting judges. And that's how we resolve the originality protest. So let's quickly recap what we talked about. First, we talked about contestant eligibility. We talked about that they need to be a paid member, and there's some specific requirement for international speech contest. They should be from a club with a good standing, and so on. And then we also saw that certain profile, they are not eligible to be contesting. For example, trio or any district officer will not be eligible to contest. And there are many such in the list who is not eligible to compete. We looked at the contest officials' eligibility. We saw for the judges, whereas at the club level, they need to be paid member, but for area, division, and district level, the requirement is a little more stringent in the sense that they have to be a paid member for a minimum of 6 months, and then as well as if it's international speech contest, their experience should match the contestant experience requirement as well. Whereas for other officials, for example, timer and counter and test speaker, they just need to be a paid member. Then we looked at how we prepare for the contest, even before the contest day. When what we do is we ensure that we build the team and bring them up to speed. That is what we need to do. And when we do the judge briefing, we will be briefing judges, we'll be briefing counters, we'll be briefing timer, but not tie-breaking judge. And when we do that, we ensure that they are ready to support you during the contest. during the contest, we go through the steps. We first explain to the audience. Then as the contest goes through, we collect the timing record sheet, we collect the ballots, and we go with the counter to tally the ballot. And finally, when the results come out, we put them together in the placement list, make a placement list, and hand it over to the contest chair. And finally, we should not forget that we have to send that winner notification form to the next level contest chair. So with this, the main part of the presentation is done. So what I'll do is I'll first go through some of the questions that have come, and I will also unmute everyone so that you can when your turn comes you can speak. Okay, so the first question I have is, if no one knows who the tie-breaking judge is, how does the chief judge get the tiebreaker's vote when it's needed? Well, the answer to that question is the chief judge will know the tiebreaker, will collect the tiebreaker ballot, and if there is a tie, chief judge will break that ballot with the tiebreaker judge. And I think there's one question, Jan Paul. You said, I have a question about tiebreaker judge. I'm not sure if you want to let us know.
Yes. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, yeah.
Hello, Sudeep, and everyone else. This was a thorough presentation, but I have a question about the tiebreaker judge.
Okay.
So say, for instance, we have 3 contestants, A, B, and C.
Mm-hmm.
After counting all the normal voting judges, their ballots, A has 20, B has 20, and C has 19.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I open up the tiebreaker results,
mm-hmm.
and it says A has 1, B
mm-hmm.
has 2, and C has 3.
Mm.
So do I use the tiebreaker judge results just to resolve the tie to determine between A and B who both have 20 each? And I determine that in this case B, because B had 2 and A had 1, that B is the winner? Or do I also add the result of the tiebreaker judge that actually said C should get 3?
Yeah, so basically, if there is a tie, because it can be much more complicated, if there is a tie, the tiebreaker result will override the voting.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one international speech contest, minimum of 2 levels in the Toastmaster pathways learning. This is different. Yeah, so in one of the slides, there was a mistake, typo. It's not 2 paths. The requirement is 2 levels of a path. To compete for international speech contest, one has to finish at least 6 speeches from the CC manual or complete 2 levels in any path in the pathways format. Is there any other question? You can speak, unmute yourself and speak if you want.
Hey, Sudip, this is Brad Schilling.
Yeah, Brad.
Thanks for bringing up the pathways thing on your slide. But I have another topic. We had just talked about the tie-breaking judge.
Right.
Maybe everybody should know that there is a separate tie-breaking ballot, which the tie-breaking judge will list. Let's say there's, I don't know, 8 speakers in a contest, just hypothetically. the tie-breaking judge will list all 8 of the speakers in the order that they have them on the ballot, whereas a regular judge will list the top 3. The tiebreaker's judges, the tiebreaker judge's ballot is only, of course, only used, as Sudha mentioned, if there is a mathematical tie when all the judges' ballots are tied or calculated. And so let's say contestant A and contestant B are tied for first. And let's say the tie-breaking judge has contestant A as 4th and the contestant B as 7th, hypothetically. So contestant A would win in this case, even though the tie-breaking judge may have had contestants E, F, and G as their top, what they thought were the 3 best speeches. So I don't know if that made sense, but they will pick the rank of whatever the tie-breaking judge is, the highest rank of the 2 that are tied on the tie-breaking ballot will win the tie.
Okay, so yeah, thanks, Brad, for clarifying that, because I was not 100% sure. So what you're saying is, it will break the tie only those that are tied. Is this what you're saying?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yes, it's only if contestants A and B are tied, then you will look at wherever the tie-breaking judge placed contestant A and contestant B. The remaining contestants is not a factor, would not be a factor in the tie-breaking judge.
Okay, thanks.
And there's no points, extra points or anything like that as a result of the tie-breaking judge.
Right. Okay, so John Paul, in your question that you brought up, right? So what happens is, as Brad has mentioned, it is only the tie-breaking judge will break only those that are tied.
Yeah. Yes, I got it. So in that case, B is the winner because the tiebreaker judge basically said A was 3rd and B was 2nd and C was 1st.
Yeah. So thanks, Brad, for clarifying that. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Any other question here?
Sudeep, I want to mention that the club in good standing. So you mentioned that the club only need at least 8 members. There's another condition.
Okay.
The club president, secretary, and 1 VP must also be good standing. So this would also happen when March 31st kicks in, when the club renew. So even you renew 20 members, if the club president, secretary, or 1 VP don't renew, the club is not in a good standing. So there's 2 conditions. First, the membership must have at least 8 members. Second, the club president, secretary, and 1 VP must renew and in a good standing, in a way, if we say that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Alice. So I hope everyone got that. So basically there are 2 conditions. One is at least 8 members should be paid member, and the other condition is president, secretary, at least 1 VP should be in good, should be a paid member. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Okay, thank you everyone for attending this. We'll have a recording that will be shared with everyone.